Stop using church intimidation, control and manipulation. Jezebel and all them spirits fall back, not trying to hear it. Go with Jesus, walk in peace. On your pew can sit that beast that we're fighting in the world. I'm that JC Supergirl, Jesus Christ, belt of truth, arm of God, I'm slaying you. Power of the word, two-edged sword. MC Heaven rocks for her Lord. Thought they crept in unaware, didn't see the gatekeeper standing right there. Not getting down with your tactics, undoctrinal practice.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome again to the Crystal Jones Show. I want to say to you, Shabbat Shalom, Barakatah. I greet you in the name of Ahaya, Bahashem Yeshaya, Wabarak Kwadash. Welcome to the show that is all about life's balance. I'm your talk show host, Crystal Jones. Let me tell you how you can watch this show. Every Saturday from 7 to 8 p.m. on bronxnet.org. Your cable channels to 951 and 2137 on the Inspire channel. Also, check out my YouTube channel at The Crystal Jones Show. Subscribe to the channel, like my videos, and share them. Also, you can check me out on social media sites, Instagram, The Crystal Jones Show, where I have inspirational biblical verses that can help get you through your day. Also on HebrewConnect.tv. You can check me out there as well. All right. So we're going to go into today's scripture of the day. All right, which we'll be talking about from the book of Jasher, which is the apocryphal book that was once a part of the Bible but was taken out. All right, so the book of Jasher, the 70th chapter and the 33rd verse. We're going to go into that real quick. All right, so give me a second. We're going to do that real quick. And we're going to Jasher, the 70th chapter and the 33rd verse. And when Moses grew up in the king's house, Thea, the daughter of Pharaoh, considered him as a son. And all the household of Pharaoh honored him, and all the men of Egypt were afraid of him. Now remember, this is during the time that our people, the Israelites, were in captivity in Egypt. Okay, because prior to this, our forefather Joseph was king over Egypt. And once he died, and the people that were of that time that lived in Egypt, once those people died out, the new leaders that took over didn't know Joseph. So they were threatened by the fact that we kept, multiplying. So they were fearful that we may join up with, the surrounding nations and go against them if war breaks out, or that kind of thing, right? But what ended up happening is the Lord raised up a deliverer, just like Joseph was a deliverer for us. At the time where there was a famine in the land, the Lord raised up Joseph. That's why he allowed him to be sold into slavery into Egypt so that he would become over Egypt and help the people throughout the world that they would not starve to death. So now again, we see our people were in a different type of situation where these Egyptian people, after we had done them well, they decided to do us evil. But the Lord remembered us, and he raised up a deliverer to deliver us, just like he did down through the generations on to Christ and on and on and on to this day. The Lord have always brought up deliverers for us to help bring us out of certain situations, right? So in this situation, they were trying to kill all the male children in Egypt. They were trying to kill all the Israelite children, the male children, right? Because if you kill the males, that's it for, that nation of people. So they were trying to kill all the male babies. They were instructed by the leaders of Egypt that when the women have babies, if it's a male, kill the male. But Moses' sister had been given prophecy by God that the Lord was going to deliver our people from this Egyptian bondage. So she had prophesied it. So when her brother Moses was born, she oversaw what happened to him. So her and her mother plotted and planned to preserve Moses. So they put him in a little boat. They made a little boat of weeds and things like that and sent him down the river. And the daughter of the Egyptian king, Bathia, she saw, uh, you know, Moses coming down that little river, and she had pity on him. So she took him in as her son. So now Moses was brought up, even though he was an Israelite, he was raised as an Egyptian in the king's house. But he knew who he was because his mother and sister not only plotted and planned for him to come into the hands of the Pharaoh's daughter, but they also planned to tell her that they could get one of the Hebrew women to nurse him. And of course, his sister planned this, Miriam. And so they brought his real mother. So all these years, Moses had been taught who he was, what was going on, and all of that. So he knew. So now we're at a time where he knew so much that he, even when he sat at table with his foster, family, he reached for his foster grandfather's, the king's wore those crowns. So Moses had reached for the crown, and they were like, wow, look at this little kid that already knows who he is. He's reaching for the crown. So they felt threatened by him, right? But Moses grew up as, an Egyptian, but the household of Pharaoh honored him, and all the men of Egypt were afraid of him because they knew who he was. They knew that he was a Hebrew Israelite, and that God had sent him to, do something miraculous. They didn't know what, but they knew it was coming, because they knew from our people arose prophets and all kind of things. And they knew when God got angry, he wiped out nations of people who were against us. So they were always fearful of us, even like you see today. Same thing. They'll let all other nations of people get away with doing anything, crimes and that type of thing. But they always put the face of our people as the drug addicts, the criminals and all of that. But their people commit a lot of the crimes themselves, right? But they do things like embezzlement and stuff like that. I guess they call them white collar or blue collar crimes or things like that. But they'll put the focus always on us, on the 12 tribes, right? The different tribes that I've told you about that exist in the earth today. And they claim that they don't know what happened to the 12 tribes. Well, we're right here. All right. Judah is definitely the Negroes, right? You have Ephraim, the Puerto Ricans that are people of color that are Puerto Ricans, Ephraim, right? You have the Levites, who are the Haitians, okay? You have the tribe of Gad, who was the first tribe over here when we got scattered to every nation. If you read Deuteronomy 28 chapter, nobody else fits those curses but us, okay? All of these different people, the Caribbean people of color, like the Jamaicans and things like that, they're the tribe of Benjamin. When you read through who Jacob was and the things that he pronounced over his children, you will know that they lied to us. They knew who we were, but they did the mixing and changing out of the people like they're doing now. They pretended that the people who came over here from a cold climate, how in the world could they be the actual Jews? That just can't happen, right? So, but to switch it out and pretend like, since we were scattered, because in 70 AD, Vespasian and Titus took the land from us, the land of Israel, for the last time, because we were in many struggles because our people continued to be deceived by the surrounding nations. So in 70 AD, the Lord said, listen, this is it. Y'all not listening to me. So I'm going to let other nations take over your land. And then finally, I'm going to gather you back together. So what we see going on today in the earth is the mixing of people, because eventually we're going back to where we came from. We're not going to be here much longer. The way that the Bible tells it about the Jubilees, the 120 years, we seem to be nearing that time. So it could be within the next 50 years. And as you see, people are leaving like crazy, because eventually when Babylon falls, as you can see what's going on today, they're not going to be able to hold up under what's going to come. All right. Because why? They could have built the country for everybody to prosper and do, well, but they didn't. And the way that they treated our people, hanging them on trees and doing all kind of wicked stuff, that's not acceptable to the Lord. So if you start out wrong, you're going to end, and you don't fix it, you're going to end up wrong. So we're seeing the last days of biblical proportions. All right. If you think this is just happening, oh, well, we'll get through this. All right. Hang tight and watch what really happens. So we're going to move on now to today's news. So today's news, we're finding out that New York City is declared a state of emergency. All right. This is from CNN. New York City, the mayor declared state of emergency over the influx of migrants, right? Now, don't you think that's weird that America would spend all this money to just let people come in here, from other countries? And I understand that a lot of countries are in dire straits, but for them to just allow them to come in here like that, when for years they've been giving immigrants problems as far as becoming citizens and things like that. And now all of a sudden they're giving them, allowing them to just be like citizens automatically. They're giving them health care, food stamps, places to live, and everything. Yet the people that were born here are living on the streets. I told you, I see them every day sleeping on the benches at Central Park and different places, begging for food and all of this. But yet they're letting people who have never been here before just walk in under the guise of, well, we checked with their country to see if they've been in jail and all of that kind of stuff, when we're finding out that all that happens is when they're on their way over, they're just asked, who are you? What do you do? And all of that. They're not checked. In other words, no, it's not checking out. Okay. They're just letting people come in. All right. So now we see here that the mayor has declared a state of emergency to help respond to the city's migrant crisis, which he told reporters Friday will cost the city $1 billion this fiscal year. Who do you think is paying that bill? We are. Okay. We have him dealing with this. We also have the Ukrainian war. Every week they're giving more and more money. Last I heard a couple of days ago, they're giving $625 million more for that. Who's footing this bill? All right. Because the poorer people are the ones that pay their taxes and things like that. The rich people aren't paying. Come on. Let's be for real. Right. So they're getting over on us. Right. We now have a situation where more people are arriving in New York City than we can immediately accommodate, including families with babies and young children. Once the asylum seekers from today's buses are provided shelter, we would surpass the highest number of people in recorded history in our city shelter system. The mayor is calling for federal and state aid. So that means people who are here who are citizens that, they need help, because even though they're supposed to be, when you have jobs, the lowest that they're supposed to be paid is $15 an hour. You know that's not happening everywhere. So these people need food stamps and things like that in order to survive. But they're not going to be getting it because the influx of immigrants are going to be getting everything. And if you notice, all of these new buildings and stuff are just popping up out of nowhere. Okay. I noticed that in the Bronx. Every time you go down the highway and whatnot, you just see all these buildings just popping up all over, and things like that, right? Who's footing the bill? We are, right? Because what are they doing? They're switching people out. Okay, there's an election coming up. They realize they can't fool the black people anymore like they used to. That more of us are waking up to the fact that, first of all, we've been lied to, and we've been lied to over and over again. When we came out of slavery, they lied to us, said we was going to get this 40 acres and all of this kind of stuff, right? 40 acres and a mule. That happened for very few people. And they feel that we should just shut up and go away when we built this country for free. All right. We were enslaved for like what? About 200 years, right? 200, I think it's 248 years or something like that. Okay. So no, we're not going to shut up. Okay. We're going to say something about it, because you didn't pay our ancestors. You took credit for the things that we even invented and try to pretend like, oh, only certain groups of people invented things here. How could those people invent those things when a lot of them weren't even here? Okay. And we worked the land. So for us to work the land where we can deal with it better, we invented a lot of things so that we could, continue to build here. Okay. So no, we're not going to shut up and go away. And when we did have Black Wall Street in Oklahoma, okay, they came and burnt that down under some lie that they told. Okay. So no, we're not going to shut up and go away, because every time we make a move or something, they're always trying to shut us down. All right. Yet they allow nations to come in and build in our neighborhoods and profit from it and never give a dime back to the community. All right. So we ask for reparations, not so that we can buy a SUV or anything like that, but for the monies that you owe us, so that we could, build our own businesses in our own communities, our own schools, our own restaurants and everything. That's what we wanted, just like all the other nations. But instead, you just flip us off like, nah, we ain't doing it. What we're gonna do, we're gonna have immigrants coming from everywhere, forget you black people, and all of this kind of crazy stuff, right? So nah, we're not going anywhere. Okay. So this is what's going on. This is what's going on. They're just switching out the people, because they're going to be able to get these people to do whatever they want. So it's going to mess with their own people too, because Karen, Ken, all of these different nations of people who feel they're the golden child are going to get a taste of what it's really like to be on the bottom. Because when they flip the script on them, they're not going to be able to take it. Just like all these other nations that feel they're better than the people of color, is not going to work. So you're going to see more and more people going back to their homelands, because this place is going to be a hot mess when the wars start breaking out over here, and famine and all of that kind of stuff. It's going to be a hot mess. You think it's bad now on these streets. It's really going to be bad. That's why I keep telling you guys, stock up, get ready, but you better make sure you know the Lord, so that he reveals to you what to do and which way to go, because this nation is not going in the right direction at all. So now the next thing we're going to go to is our health and wellness. All right. So for health and wellness, I would advise you all to please use disinfectants in your home and your workspaces, because when they spray the areas, people get sick. I know from people not coming into work and stuff like that right after the areas get sprayed and all of that kind of stuff. Some of your coworkers, they don't come to work and stuff like that, because whatever they're spraying in the air can make people sick. And then also where you work, there's a lot of germs and things like that. So always make sure that you spray your house, down. Get your disinfectants that you need in your house. Spray, your carpets, everything, your clothing. I'm not gonna lie. As soon as I take my clothes off, they get washed and soaked in Lysol. Okay, so do that. Also, for your business tips, you can do the same. Do indoor events where you can talk about the importance and give samples of safe disinfectants so people can see, are they allergic to these disinfectants? What's the ratio and things like that. That's another good business thing to do, to share your information with people, and people can share information with you, because it's greatly needed to know what disinfectants may affect your children, people in your family that are senior citizens, things like that, things that affect you, as a person. You may be allergic to certain things. So make sure you get the right disinfectants for your home, and even in your workspaces. I spray down my workspace every day, the wipes, all of that. So you want to stay safe and you want to stay healthy. All right. So now we are down today to the credo. Shama Yasharala, Ahaya Alahaya Nawa, Ahaya Ekad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord our God, he is one. Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter and the 4th verse. Okay, so now we're going to get back into the story of Moses, who is now the new leader. Joseph has died. Now it's Moses. All right, but Moses has a hard time growing up. If you notice, all of our leaders, everybody tried to snuff him out. They tried to snuff out Abraham, right? Because they saw when he was born, they saw how the stars had swallowed up. One star had swallowed up all of the other stars and all of that kind of stuff. Nimrod wanted him killed, all of that. Then you had, Joseph, when, Joseph, when he was born. All right. He had visions and dreams, and his brothers, they were like, I know he's not trying to say that we're going to bow down and worship him. So they sold him into slavery, only to have to apologize years later that the Lord made it so that they wouldn't die of starvation, right? On down, now we got Moses, and it went on and on with Christ. They tried to kill Christ when he was born. All right. They snuffed out some of our leaders did get killed, right? All right. So now we're here with Moses. Okay, so Jasher, the 70th chapter, from the 33rd verse again. And when Moses grew up in the king's house, Bathia, the daughter of Pharaoh, considered him as a son, and all the household of Pharaoh honored him, and all the men of Egypt were afraid of him. You can read that in the sacred text.com. You could bring it up, the book of Jasher. All right. You could also Google it. All right. And he daily went forth and came into the land of Goshen. Goshen was the area that we were assigned when Joseph became prince over Egypt, and he brought his family from Israel to Goshen, which at the time Israel was called Canaan. He bought during the famine. When his father found out that he was alive and all of that, and they all went to Egypt to survive, they were given the land of Goshen. We were given that land because we did farming and stuff like that. But the Egyptians, to them, farming was like a curse or something like that. So they wanted us to be there in Egypt, but like in an area like not right up on them, right? Because their religious belief was different from ours. So now he daily went forth and came into the land of Goshen, right? We're talking about Moses, where his brethren, the children of Israel, were. So Moses would keep going and visiting his homeland. He would still be in touch because remember, his mother and his sister had raised him, even though he was in the house of the Pharaoh's daughter, the king's daughter, right? So now Moses saw them daily in shortness of breath and hard labor. So Moses saw his own people enslaved and being treated like slaves, and he didn't like it. And Moses asked them, saying, wherefore is this labor meted out unto you day by day? So Moses really didn't understand that God was sending him to be their leader. So he's looking and saying, why are you all being treated different from the people in Egypt? Doesn't that sound familiar? Why were we treated bad as opposed to the white nation of people here, right? They came here. One of our tribes was already here, the tribe of Gad, the Indians, but they would have you to believe that there was some dinner called Thanksgiving where they were friends and all of that, but they don't tell you the part where they put smallpox in the blankets and made our people from the tribe of Gad sick, and then brought us over in ships where they lost thousands of our people in the Atlantic Ocean, right? But the ones that survived those horrible trips and whatnot, they brought us over here and enslaved us. They didn't share the wealth. No, we weren't no hired out hands, as they try to lie and say that, we came over here willingly. Get out of here. You think we would have came willingly in chains laid and was laid down? Do you see those slave ships where they had us on top of each other? I mean, really. So Moses heard these things, and his anger was kindled against Balaam, and he sought to kill him, right? So now I'm going back to the 35th verse, Joshua the 70th chapter 35. Moses asked them, saying, wherefore is this labor meted out unto you day by day? And they told him that had befallen them, and all the injunctions which Pharaoh had put upon them before his birth. So his fellow Israelites are letting him know, hey, this is what happened to us, before you were born, like at your birth time. This is what was going on, Moses. And they told him all the counsels which Balaam, the son of Beor, had counseled against them, and what he had also counseled against him in order to slay him when he had taken the king's crown from off his head. So they said, Moses, they was even going to kill you when you was a little boy and you snatched the crown off his head, because the Lord was letting him know, oh no, you ain't going to rule. The Israelites are going to be God's chosen people, right? So, and when Moses heard these things, his anger was kindled against Balaam, and he sought to kill him, and he was in ambush for him day by day. So Moses was gunning for this man. And Balaam was afraid of Moses, and he and his two sons rose up and went forth from Egypt, and they fled and delivered their souls and betook themselves to the land of Cush, to Kikianus, king of Cush. And Moses was in the king's house, going out and coming in. The Lord gave him favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants, and in the eyes of all the people of Egypt, and they loved Moses exceedingly. So in spite of all this, Moses was a nice guy. He was a godly man. He was born, even though he was in the king's house, he was taught as an Israelite. He was taught, the ways of the Hebrews. We were called, Hebrews at that time. So, and the day arrived when Moses went to Goshen to see his brethren, that he saw the children of Israel in their burdens and hard labor, and Moses was grieved on their account. So Moses was tired of seeing his people enslaved. And Moses returned to Egypt and came to the house of Pharaoh and came before the king. And Moses bowed down before the king. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, I pray thee, my Lord, I have come to seek a small request from thee. Turn not away from my face empty. And Pharaoh said unto him, speak. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, let there be given unto thy servants, the children of Israel, who are in Goshen, one day to rest therein from their labor. So he knew that on the seventh day the Lord rested. This came from the Hebrew people. When we were given, the laws, statutes, and commandments from the Lord from the beginning. The Lord had given us these statutes and commandments. We were supposed to rest on the seventh day, just as the Lord did. All right. So he said, let them rest from their labor. And the king answered Moses and said, behold, I have lifted up thy face in this thing to grant thy request. So the king said, okay, they could rest on the seventh day. And Pharaoh ordered a proclamation to be issued throughout Egypt and Goshen, saying, to you, all the children of Israel, thus says the king, for 6 days you shall do your work and labor, but on the seventh day you shall rest and shall not perform any work. So this was even before Moses was given the tablets, the 10 commandments. We were told this from the beginning of time, right? Thus shall you do all the days as the king and Moses, the son of Bethiah, have commanded. And Moses rejoiced at this thing which the king had granted to him. And all the children of Israel did as Moses ordered them. For this thing was from the Lord to the children of Israel. For the Lord had begun to remember the children of Israel to save them for the sake of their fathers. Therefore, our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Abraham was when we first started being called Hebrews. All right, because the Lord separated him from the Chaldeans. He told him to come out from them. He was going to make them a separate group of people, and nations would come from him, right? So Moses rejoiced at this thing which the king had granted to him, and all the children of Israel did as Moses ordered them. For this thing was from the Lord to the children of Israel, for the Lord had begun to remember them for the sake of their fathers. And the Lord was with Moses, and his fame went throughout Egypt. And Moses became great in the eyes of all the Egyptians and in the eyes of all the children of Israel, seeking good for his people Israel and speaking words of peace regarding them to the king. So the Lord used Moses to, kind of help, because we were being treated very unfairly, just like we were here in America in slavery. We were being treated very badly. Okay. So now we go to Joshua, the 71st chapter. And when Moses was 18 years old, he desired to see his father and mother, and he went to them to Goshen, right? And when Moses had come near Goshen, so he knew who his father and his mother were, he came to the place where the children of Israel were engaged in work. And he observed their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian smiting one of his Hebrew brethren, kind of like what happens today to our people, right? In the prisons, right? On the street, right? That happens to our people. They're smitten by those who are in charge. Okay, so we're the same group of people, the same ones. All right, just that they switched the people around to make us believe that we were just some lost people that came from the woods, the forest, right? They told us we would come from the continent of Africa, swinging in trees and all of that. But they don't tell you where they used to call where we ran to after they ran us out of our own place, the Gold Coast, the Slave Coast. They don't tell you that Nigeria is full of Hebrew people, the Igbos, the Yorubas. Those are Jews. Those are Hebrew people. We fled from where we were. Even in the book of Revelation, it tells you what Christ looked like. Burnt brass. Okay, burnt brass. Not the pictures that you see on a lot of these churches with a European person. No, Christ was not European. Okay, he was a Hebrew Israelite. They were black people back then, and they still are. We still are today. All right. So now we see, and when the man was beaten, saw Moses, he ran to him for help. The man who was beaten by this Egyptian, he ran to him for help. Now, in this situation, this is black on black crime, all right? Because at that time, the Egyptians were black. Here today, you have a lot of mixing of the nations that took place so that we wouldn't know who the people originally were. But if you look at the paintings from back then, those were black people. We always had different shades of our people. We had from very dark to very light. Some of it came from mixing of nations, but some of it came from sickness, vitiligo, all of these different skin diseases that came about caused a lot of times the lightening up of our people. And remember, ultimately, people there's no such thing as white or black people. I keep telling you all that, right? There are nations of people, all right? And they call us that so that, again, to hide our identity of who we were, right? They wanted us to think we were the Gentile nation of people, and we're not. So this is why they call us black people. We're black people. Where are we from? Who, what nationality are we? Okay, so there's no such thing as that, right? But when you look in history and they keep digging up remains, if you notice, the deeper they dig, the blacker it gets. It's black people, okay, were the first people on the earth. We were made from the dirt of the earth. Doesn't that give you a clue? The dirt is dark, all right? So come on now, right? So that doesn't mean that people of other nations are not loved by God or that they cannot serve the Lord. But it's just that we were chosen to bring the nations to the worship, the true worship of the Lord as it is biblically, the way the Lord wanted it to be. So this is why we're going through what we're going through now, because he's going to gather us back together, the 12 tribes. All right. We look different because we were scattered to all nations of the world. Read Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. When we didn't listen, he scattered us. All right. So when the man who was beaten saw Moses, he ran to Moses for help. For the man Moses was greatly respected in the house of Pharaoh. And he said to him, my Lord, attend to me. This Egyptian came to my house in the night, bound me, and came to my wife in my presence. And now he seeks to take my life away. So this man is trying to mess with this man's wife, right? But in this situation, this is black on black crime. And when Moses heard this wicked thing, his anger was kindled against the Egyptian. This is why he was angry, like, how dare you try to rape somebody's wife? And he turned this way and the other. So Moses looked like, what? He messed with your wife? No, I'm going to take him out. Or he turned this way and that. Anybody looking? He turned this way and the other. And when he saw there was no man there, he smote the Egyptian and hid him in the sand and delivered the Hebrew from the hand of him that smote him. So Moses killed this man. He was like, nah, I'm going to take this dude out, right? So, and the Hebrew went to his house, and Moses returned to his home and went forth and came back to the king's house. So Moses played off like, yeah, I got your back, man. I got you, hey, we out, right? And when the man had returned home, he thought of repudiating his wife, for it was not right in the house of Jacob for any man to come to his wife after she had been defiled. So this man, because of our laws and commandments and things like that, it was an abomination if a man's wife was touched by somebody else. It was an abomination for him to, then go and have sexual relations with his wife again, because it was displeasing to the Lord, right? So, his woman was defiled, and the woman went and told her brothers, and the woman's brothers sought to slay him, and he fled to his house and escaped. So the woman was mad now because, wait a minute, I got raped, and you talking about you don't want to be with me? I didn't cause this on myself. So now her brothers are mad, like, wait a minute, hold it. You ain't gonna do our sister like that. She ain't asked for that. No, it's gonna go down. It's gonna be a showdown, go down here, right? So the man fled, and on the second day Moses went forth to his brethren and saw, and behold, two men were quarreling. And he said to the wicked one, why dost thou smite thy neighbor? And he answered him and said to him, who has set thee for a prince and a judge over us? Dost thou think to slay me as thou didst slay the Egyptian? So now here we are another day, and two Israelites, Hebrew people, are quarreling against each other. So Moses saying, y'all are brothers, don't do that. But one of them said, who you think you are, Moses? I saw you when you killed that man yesterday. And Moses was afraid, and he said, surely the thing is known. And Pharaoh heard of this affair, and he ordered Moses to be slain. So in Egypt, you slay somebody, you're going to get slain, right? Especially since Moses was not really an Egyptian, he was a Hebrew. So God sent his angel, and he appeared unto Pharaoh in the likeness of a captain of the guard. And the angel of the Lord took the sword from the hand of the captain of the guard and took his head off with it. For the likeness of the captain of the guard was turned into the likeness of Moses. So though the king wanted to slay Moses, the Lord sent an angel to slay that captain of the guard, and he made his face look as if it was Moses to fool the king. Right? And the angel of the Lord took hold of the right hand of Moses and brought him forth from Egypt. So the Lord brought Moses out of Egypt, right? And placed him from without the borders of Egypt, a distance of 40 days journey. So an angel actually took Moses and brought him out of Egypt, away from the Egyptians, and away from Goshen and all of that whole thing. He took him like 40 days out. And Aaron, his brother, alone remained in the land of Egypt, and he prophesied to the children of Israel. So Aaron, maybe remember, in his household, he had a brother named Aaron, and he had a sister named Miriam, right? So when the Lord took Moses out, he started using his brother Aaron. Because remember, Aaron later on was of the Levitical priesthood. He became the father of the Levites, right? Thus says the Lord God of your ancestors. This is what Aaron is saying to them. Throw away each man the abomination of his eyes, and do not defile yourself with the idols of Egypt. So the Lord is now preparing the children of Israel to come clean with the Lord, because he's about to bring them out of slavery. So now they got to get their mind right, because he's bringing you out to serve him, to serve the Lord. So get out of this way of serving these idols that these Egyptians serve. I never meant for y'all to do this or anything like that. So get rid of these idols, because I'm about to bring you out, right? So he's, he's getting them ready, right? Through Aaron. Right? So he told him, throw away each man the abomination of his eyes, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt. And the children of Israel rebelled. Our people got a bad habit of rebelling, right? And would not hearken to Aaron at that time, right? Isn't that like today? Sometimes if you try to talk to young people about serving the Lord, or people, period, they have their own ideas. Some of them, well, I'm God. I got this. Don't tell me you don't know, God, who is God, and all this kind of stuff, like they made themselves, right? Okay. So now they wouldn't hearken to Aaron at that time, and the Lord thought to destroy them. Were it not that the Lord remembered the covenant which he had made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he would have destroyed Israel, because they wasn't listening. We have a bad habit of that. That's why we went into slavery like almost 12 times, not listening. In those days, the hand of Pharaoh continued to be severe against the children of Israel, and he crushed and oppressed them until the time when God sent forth his word and took notice of them. And he took notice of us because of who? Our forefathers, right? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? So now let's go to Joshua 72. And it was in those days that there was a great war between the children of Cush and the children of the east and Amram, and they rebelled against the king of Cush, in whose hands they were. So Cacinus, king of Cush, went forth with all the children of Cush, a people numerous as the sand, and he went to fight against Aram and the children of the east to bring them under subjection, right? And when Cacinus went out, he left Balaam the magician. Now, Balaam, this guy's a wicked dude. He's doing sorcery and stuff with his 2 sons to guard the city and the lowest sort of the people of the land. So Cacinus went forth to Aram, the children of the east, and he fought against them and smote them, and they all fell down wounded before King Cacinus and his people. And he took many of them captives, and he brought them under subjection as at first. And he encamped upon their land to take tribute from them as usual, right? So this is all what's going on in the land during the time there's war going on, right? So now we're going to skip down to the 22nd verse. Well, we're going to go to the 21st verse of Joshua 72. At that time, the war and the siege were against Cush. Moses fled from Egypt, from Pharaoh, who sought to kill him for having slain the Egyptian. All right. And Moses was 18 years old when he fled from Egypt, from the presence of Pharaoh, and he fled and escaped to the camp of Cacinus, which at that time was besieging Cush. And Moses was 9 years in the camp of Cacinus, king of Cush, all the time that they were besieging Cush. And Moses went out and came in with them. So Moses, while the angel took him out from danger there in Egypt, he's now, he's in the camp of Cacinus, the king of Cush, right? And the king and the princes of all the fighting men loved Moses, for he was great and worthy. His stature was like a noble lion, all right? His face was like the sun, and his strength was like that of a lion, and he was counselor to the king, all right? So our people were fierce back then. They was built, we ate good back then. Our men looked, they was buffed, right? As you can see, he was great and worthy. His stature was like a lion, so he was built, right? His face was like the sun, and his strength was like that of a lion. We were strong, right? And he was counselor to the king, right? So, and at the end of 9 years, Cacinus was seized with a mortal disease, and his illness prevailed over him, and he died on the 7th day. So though Moses was like a counselor to him and whatnot, this man was sick. And so he died, during that time. So his servants embalmed him and carried him and buried him opposite the city gate of the north of the land of Egypt, right? Let's see. I think I got a little bit more time, right? And they built over him an elegant, strong, and high building, and they placed great stones below. And the king's scribes engraved upon those stones all the might of the king of Cacinus and all his battles which he had fought, right? So after his death, it grieved his men and troops greatly on account of the war. So they said one to another, give us counsel what we are to do at this time, as we have resided in the wilderness 9 years away from our homes, right? If we say we will fight against the city, many of us will fall wounded or killed. And if we remain here in the siege, we'll also die, because they're in the middle of a war now. For now, all the kings of Aram and of the children of the east will hear that our king is dead, and they will attack us suddenly in a hostile manner, and they will fight against us and leave no remnant of us. Like, they'll wipe us out. Now, therefore, let us go and make a king over us, and let us remain in the siege until the city is delivered to us. And they wished to choose on that day a man for a king from the army of Cacinus. And they found no object of their choice like Moses to reign over them. So Moses, everywhere he goes, he's in leadership. So now they're making him to reign over them, a nation. He's reigning over these nations of people that he's not a part of. He's king over. He's made a prince over Egypt. Now he's made over Cacinus, over the king Cacinus, right? And they found no object of their choice like Moses to reign over us. And they hasted and stripped off each man his garment and cast them upon the ground. And they made a great heap and placed Moses thereon. And they rose up and blew with trumpets and called out before him and said, "May the king live, may the king live," right? So, shoot, what? And all the people and nobles swore unto him to give him for a wife Adoniah the queen, the Cushite, right? Wife of Cacinus. And they made Moses king over them on that day. Now, they're making a Hamite his wife. Now, remember, we're Shemites. All the people in the land that came out of that flood of Noah, we have Ham, Shem, and Japheth, right? The Hamites are a lot of the African nations of people and surrounding areas, right? The Shemites are us. We're the Hebrew Israelites that were separated from all of the other nations, all right? And the Japhites, they consist of a lot of the Arab people, all right? Not all of them, but all right? So now they rose up and blew with trumpets and called out before him, "May the king live, may the king live," right? And all the people and nobles swore unto him to give him for a wife Adoniah the queen, right? The Cushite, right? And all the people of Cush issued a proclamation on that day saying, "Every man must give something to Moses of what is in his possession." And they spread out a sheet upon the heap, and every man cast into it something of what he had, one gold earring and the other a coin, also of onyx stones, bdellium, pearls, and marble did the children of Cush cast unto Moses upon the heap, also silver and gold in great abundance. So here's a black wealthy man. Now Moses is again placed in the situation of being a king. All right. That's why I try to tell our black men, no, you have ruled nations before. All right. Stop listening to these people tell you that you have to do all this nonsense on the streets. You come from kings and kingdoms. Be kingdom men. All right. So not that none of them are, because a lot of our men are. They holding it down in their area, right? But the ones that are falling for the status quo of, y'all people ain't no good, don't listen to them. You come from a line of kings and kingdoms. All right, we do. Black women too. We come from lines of kings and kingdoms. All right, remember, we didn't start out over here at all. All right, so now, and all the people and nobles swore unto him to give him for a wife, right? And all of that. So onyx stones he was given, pearls and marble did the children of Cush cast unto Moses upon the heap, silver, gold, great abundance. And Moses took all the silver. I got a few minutes left. Okay, and Moses took all the silver and gold, all the vessels and the bdellium, onyx stones, which all the children of Cush had given to him, and he placed them amongst his treasures. And Moses reigned over the children of Cush. So this is a Shemite ruling over a Hamite nation of people. He ruled over the Hamites on that day in the place of Cacinus, king of Cush. All right. Now, in the 73rd chapter, I'm getting ready to close out because I don't have that much more time. In the 55th year of the reign of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that is in the 157th year of the Israelites going down into Egypt, reigned Moses in Cush. All right. He reigned over the Hamites in the 57th year of us Israelites going down into Egypt. All right. Moses was 27 years old when he began to reign over Cush. And 40 years did he reign over Cush. That's a Hamite nation of people, a Shemite reigning over a Hamite. All right. Over the Hamite nation. And the Lord granted Moses favor and grace in the eyes of all the children of Cush. And the children of Cush loved him exceedingly. So Moses was favored by the Lord and by men. All right. So the Lord granted Moses favor in the eyes of all the children of Cush. All right. And in the 7th year of his reign, all the children of Cush assembled and came before Moses and bowed down to him to the ground. So you got Hamites bowing down to Shemites. All right. In other words, they're giving him honor and reverence. This is what God made happen. Okay. Why? Because we're not trying to be a braggartish people or anything, but we were called to bring the earth back into the original state it was supposed to be in when we were created from civilization, from when the Lord first made creation. And also our duty is going to be in the end to judge nations and the fallen angels. Remember, Lucifer fell from heaven. Okay. He was the son of the morning. He had pipes. He was able to sing and all of that. He was over the music and all of that. But what? He got lifted up, right? And the Lord had to take him out, like, bye-bye, right? So in the end, the angels that fell with him, because we will cover that at another time, that you will understand why things are going on here in the earth, what the fallen angels taught us. And the Nephilim seed, which they keep calling ET and all that kind of garbage. Those are fallen angels, the children of the fallen angels. Okay, that's what that's about. All right, so we're running out of time, y'all. Thank you for joining the Crystal Jones Show. It's the show that's all about life's balance. Like I say, you can check me out every Saturday from 7 to 8 p.m. on bronxnet.org. Also, you could check me out, channel 951-2137, the Inspire channel. Check me out on social media. Go to my YouTube channel, The Crystal Jones TV Show. Subscribe, like, and share my YouTube videos. Also, go to Instagram and look at the daily Bible verses and HebrewConnect.tv. All right. So, Kwam Yasharala, come on, y'all. Study this stuff that I'm telling you about. Get it in your spirit. Because what's going on, we have to make the people aware. It's not something just crazy going on. Everything is about to change. Rise up, Israel. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. And you stay balanced.
Do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Stop using church intimidation, control and manipulation. Jezebel and all them spirits fall back, not trying to hear it. Go with Jesus, walk in peace. On your pew can sit that beast that we're fighting in the world. I'm that JC Supergirl, Jesus Christ, belt of truth, arm of God, I'm slaying you. Power of the word, two-edged sword. MC Heaven rocks for her Lord. Thought they crept in unaware, didn't see the gatekeeper standing right there. Not getting down with your tactics, undoctrinal practice.